right, ready?
I'm born ready. Let's do it.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Sam. I'm the other half of Building Integrity. You've all been spending a lot of time with Josh, even though he's on vacation. He's been covering this tragedy down in Surfside, Florida for you. And I'm here today with Sarah Desrosiers. She's a real estate agent here in Punta Gorda, where we are located. Our world headquarters, I like to call it. It's here in Punta Gorda, Florida, which is basically right across the state from where that building collapse happened. So I have Sarah here today with us. We're going to talk about what buyers should be aware of when they're considering purchasing a condo, and then what sellers are responsible to let people know when they're trying to sell a condo. So I know that's been a question in a lot of people's minds after this, got everyone thinking about stuff they don't normally think about. So
Absolutely.
welcome, Sarah. Thank you for
so
joining
much.
us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely.
I wish it was under different circumstances,
Of
but
course, as do we.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about your real estate background and.
Okay. Great. Yeah, I've been a realtor in Punta Gorda for the past 6 years, a full-time agent with Keller Williams Peace River Partners. And I've lived in the area for 30 years, so it was kind of a natural progression for me from the legal field, which is what I worked in for 12 years before I became an agent. And the rest is history.
And you have experience buying and selling condos, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. We are in Florida, the retirement capital of the world. So condos are they're easy living for people. A lot of people like the low maintenance or no maintenance. And so it's definitely a really great option for a lot of people coming to the area. So yes, lots of condo sales.
Pretty views from the condos, especially
Best
if they're
views.
on the Atlantic Ocean or on the Gulf of
Sure.
Mexico.
That's what people are looking for when they come to Florida. They want that water.
That's right. Okay,
Yeah.
but it doesn't come cheaply.
Oh, no, not anymore. Especially in this market. Everything has gotten quite expensive, but you're paying for the views. It's worth it.
Right. Okay, so I don't want to talk too much today about that specific building and what happened over there. We're more kind of generalizing about what buyers can expect and what sellers are responsible to do. But can you tell us a little bit about, I understand that there were a couple units for sale in this building and maybe some recent sales that happened in the past couple months?
Yeah, and I don't have direct access to their multiple listing service, of course, but what I was able to locate in the public records, it appeared that there were 5 sales in this 2021. From what I could see. And so they all occurred, between January and the last sale that I was able to pick up was in late April. So if there were other sales, I just didn't see them yet, or if they're pending or, before this happened.
What kind of price range are we talking about in this particular building?
So on the East Coast, everything is, of course, much more. They have a higher premium than on our coast in the Gulf of Mexico. But they were ranging from anywhere between $400,000 to $1 million. So, and in that specific area as well, they were ranging. All the other condo buildings as well were ranging from around the $400,000 per unit to over $1 million. So, I guess it just really mattered on your view, the amenities, and of course any updating any of the condos had.
Right. Okay. And then when we're talking about condo buildings, you're not just paying your mortgage; you're also paying a lot of other fees.
Absolutely. So, with that freedom of not having to maintain your own property, there comes a cost. So with every condominium building or any unit that you purchase, there's an association involved. And they're not all created equal. Each building will have their own association, different rules, different things that they offer, et cetera, different fees as well. So yes, absolutely. There's usually a monthly or quarterly HOA condo fee that will be included in your purchase.
Okay, now let's talk about maybe a real estate transaction specifically.
So when you're purchasing a condo, obviously there's a lot of different things to think about. It's not the same as buying a home. There's a lot of parallels, of course, but it's a different scenario wherein you're not buying the whole building, you're buying a unit within a building. And so it's really important that obviously you do your due diligence and inspect the unit in and of itself, but also the building as a whole. And a lot of people don't really realize that they do have the opportunity to do their due diligence and really take a good look at, everything the condo has available. Of course, when you're purchasing a condo, you need to make sure that you're taking a look at their bylaws. You're taking a look at their declaration of restrictions. You're also going to want to know what their financials are. Is this HOA viable? Are they collecting enough from their residents to have proper reserves to take care of things like roof replacement or structural issues or pool maintenance, ground maintenance, etc.? That's very, very important because as we both know, these monthly or quarterly fees will never go down.
Right.
They're only going to increase.
Absolutely.
So, and you want to make sure that this is an investment for you. You want to make sure that you're obviously protecting your investment from the drywall in, what's going on the drywall out. And you just need to make sure that HOA is in line.
Right, and in the condo world, we refer to those as commonly owned elements. So that's
Yes.
everything that's outside of the unit that you are purchasing for your own use and enjoyment.
Yep.
You're also purchasing a
Rights.
percentage of the
Right.
rest of the building, essentially.
In a way, right?
You're buying into the rest of the building, which is the roof itself. It's the paint on the outside of the building. It's that billiards room where you take your grandkids down to play pool.
Yep,
The
yep.
swimming pool and the amenity deck and everything like that as well. So you're buying a
Absolutely.
percentage of those, and then you're responsible for paying to maintain all those elements as well.
Absolutely.
And so that's something that buyers need to be asking about, is what you were saying there.
Oh, absolutely. And it's important too when you're purchasing and who you're working with as your professional that they understand that as well. Because as realtors, obviously, we aren't making the purchase for you. We're here to guide you and act as consultants. So our job is to provide all of the information that you need to be able to make a educated decision on this investment. And so obviously the general consumer, if you've never bought a condo before, an apartment, or even a house, you really don't know what to ask.
Right.
And so it's important to have that advocate in your corner to say, okay, well, we need to make sure we get all these documents. Let's get an inspector to check this, that, and the other to make sure you are comfortable with the purchase you're making.
So is it common practice for potential buyers to be granted full access to the property? I mean, obviously they're going to tour the unit specifically
Sure.
that they're purchasing, but there's a lot of grounds to cover, if you will.
Absolutely, and I highly, highly recommend it. When we're showing properties, whether it's in person or virtually, because in the world we're living in now, we're doing a lot of virtual showings. We absolutely recommend that you check out the garage area. You check out all the common elements because you're investing in that as well. We want to know what the pool looks like. We want to know what the clubhouse looks like. So absolutely go through all of it. And there's no harm also in having your inspector go take a peek as well, because it's another set of eyes, another professional taking a good look at those things and making any notes that you need to be aware of. So definitely do that.
Right, and you mentioned insurance as well. So your own homeowner's insurance, I would assume, just covers your particular unit, but then
Yeah.
the association has their own insurance policies as well.
That is correct, and that's usually always what's included in your monthly condo association, the escrows that we were talking about. So I'm obviously not an insurance agent, just full disclosure, but when we're getting quotes for our buyers from agents, it's drywall in. That's what you're insuring. And then the association is insuring the remainder of the building and the common element areas.
Gotcha.
So that's basically what your responsibility is.
Okay, now what are some things that sellers are obligated or legally required to disclose to a potential buyer?
And that's a really, really great question because obviously seller's obligation is to disclose anything of material defect that's going to affect the value of the property. This can always get tricky because if the seller doesn't absolutely know about something, they can't disclose it. So you can't always also take the word of what the seller says on the seller disclosure. So to kind of dig into that a little further, with every contract, with every listing that we take as far as sellers, we also get a seller disclosure, or in this, for condominiums, there's a condo disclosure. And the seller is asked to fill it out on their own and disclose anything and answer the questions that are on this particular disclosure, the best of their knowledge. So that's very general. The best of your knowledge, if you don't know, you can't answer the question. So that the sellers are required and obligated to make all disclosures. And I tell my sellers, when in doubt, disclose it. It's not going to hurt, but it will hurt if you withhold something that you know about. Absolutely. So, and it's interesting, in the state of Florida, the only thing that our sellers don't have to disclose is if somebody has passed away in the home.
So you could be buying a haunted unit.
You could be buying a haunted house. But yeah, so you don't have to disclose that. But anything else, you would want to know as the buyer. You would want the seller, if you were on the other side of the transaction, to get as much information as possible. And I think being upfront and honest and totally transparent will make the buyer feel comfortable, even though the things that they're hearing maybe aren't as appealing as they would like to hear, but at least they're aware of it. And they can dig in deeper and get satisfactory answers from there.
Right. Now you mentioned something about you can only disclose what you know. So
Right.
Is there a way to, if I could use the phrase, go over the seller's head?
Sure.
Is there a way to get at maybe something that the condo board or the management knows that maybe the seller doesn't know?
Absolutely. And so what we always like to tell our buyers as well is, we have a due diligence period. And during that time, it's our job to leave no stone unturned, to find out what we need to know. So I think this unfortunate tragedy has really, made us all think about, can we do better as far as finding more information about the condo buildings in and of itself? I think a lot of times you get complacent and you just assume that the condo associations, that the buildings are in good shape, everyone's been checking them annually.
Right.
That's not always the case. Not that there's any blame in this particular point, that's not what I'm getting at, but we can't rely on the word of others. It's our job to confirm that and verify. And so to answer that question, absolutely. And that's why we have home inspectors, and that's why we have engineers. That's why we have pest inspectors. It's important that instead of saving money by skipping those inspections, spend the money, get them done during your due diligence period, and find out everything that you can, and at least you've done your job. And then if something happens that are unforeseen, because some things you won't find out in inspections or when an engineer comes out or happen after the fact, but at least you've done your job to get to that point.
Right. What are some things maybe specifically that buyers could be asking, documents that they should be looking at, or at least asking to see?
Sure. Well, definitely when we're dealing with a condominium association, you want to see, like I mentioned before, their bylaws. You want to see their financials for the year, what's been approved. Also ask if there's anything upcoming that has not yet been reflected in the financials, any increase in the HOA fees or the condo fees. If they will release any recent inspection reports. Every county is different, so I can't speak to the whole state of Florida, but it is my understanding that there are some inspections that are required at the county level for these buildings. The time frame, I don't know that for sure, but ask what they have on file. As far as insurance policies, absolutely ask to make sure, to see what's covered and if they have plenty of coverage. And then also in the financials, you're going to look at the escrow reserves. The money you're paying every month is going to have an escrow reserve for either roof replacement, building maintenance. How much are they collecting? Does it make sense for, what would have to be done?
Absolutely.
So those are the things that I definitely recommend people ask for. And you can even ask for the last minutes, the last board meeting.
Oh, very good.
Yep.
Yeah. And the building reserves you were talking about, that's something that my company does. They're called reserve studies. We actually have some videos that you can watch about what goes into creating a reserve study. And the escrow reserves you were talking about,
Great.
That's the banking account where the money that's collected gets set aside for these specific things like painting the building, putting on a new roof. But as we've all just discovered, just because you're saving for this money doesn't necessarily mean it's getting spent on doing the work. So,
absolutely.
So that's where looking at the minutes would come in, going back. And a lot of these, as we've also discovered, are publicly available documents.
Right.
So
absolutely.
you should be able to go back and see that the work was done. All the permits would be filed at whatever county the building is in.
Yep. And that's usually all readily available online, public record.
Right.
So I know Charlotte County has a fantastic, very user-friendly website, so you can pull up recent permits and everything to see for yourself.
Way to go, Roger.
Oh, a little plug. Maybe we can get out of jury duty.
Right. Yeah, Sarah and I both got summoned for jury duty coming up in July. So.
I know. Next week we have to start calling. Don't forget.
Oh, boy.
I hope I don't get picked. But another thing too, to kind of in that same vein is, and let's say you do successfully close on your unit, and you're part of this community now. You're part of the association. My advice is to get involved in the board, get involved in the condo association, and then that way you have your finger on the pulse of what's going on and have a voice. Because I think that's very important. I mean, I'm not saying go ahead and run for president of the HOA, but attend the meetings. Speak up, understand where you're living, and I think that's very, very important too. I think the more involvement, I think maybe more things can get done for these condo associations if you have more resident involvement. Because remember, all these board members are volunteers. Right. So, and many of them aren't professionals in what they do, and they've volunteered their time to do it. So I think the more help from the people that live there, would be beneficial too. That would be my advice.
Absolutely. That's very good advice. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
All right. Any other general advice for people that may be shopping for a condo or people trying to sell a condo? Because, I mean, I think that this unfortunate event over on the other side of our state, it's really brought a laser focus
Sure.
on this industry in particular, all over the world, really.
Oh, absolutely.
And so...
Well, I don't think anyone should be afraid of condos or apartments or anything like that because, again, this was a very unfortunate tragedy that is not a common thing at all.
Right.
This is not a common scenario. And again, you know, doing your due diligence is peace of mind, and you're going to really understand what you're purchasing. But don't be afraid of condos. They're a fantastic opportunity. You will meet so many wonderful people the place you live at. And again, the low maintenance, it's really an ideal situation. If you're living here part-time or even here full-time and you just want to live your life, you know, like I tell people, just bring your flip-flops and enjoy Florida. And that's really what you can do with a condo. So don't be afraid of it. Just make sure you're getting with the proper professionals to get the answers that you need to feel comfortable moving forward. So I just don't want anyone to be afraid of condos because there's nothing to be afraid of. This was a very unique, isolated event that, you know, hopefully we don't see again.
Yeah, amen to that.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you for joining us for this
My pleasure.
This new episode of Building Integrity. On the next episode, I'm going to be interviewing an attorney to get some legal perspective on the operation of condominium associations.
Great.
For those of you who don't know, at least in the state of Florida, condominiums are not-for-profit corporations run by a board of directors. So they are literally businesses. And as Sarah just mentioned, they're run by volunteers, essentially. So hopefully they have the help of a good management company.
Right.
And so we'll be looking at that in the next video. But thank you for joining us, Sarah.
Thank you for having me.
And for all of you out there, just remember to love your family, love your friends, and love your neighbors. And we'll see you next time.